Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, happy Tuesday.
What's going on? Happy Tuesday. It's not Monday.
It is not Monday. We totally screwed that up. So, happy Tuesday. But I'll tell you what, it actually kind of worked out.
Yeah, we've got more stuff to talk about today. So, yeah. That's it worked out okay. For those wondering, I'm clearly in a hotel room. So I'm traveling. And yesterday we just had a little bit of mix up with time zones. When I set my alarm in the morning, I kind of forgot that for Starbucks I need to set it an hour earlier than normal. So that was a complete mix up on my part. Time zones. They got me.
They got you. Yep. I was here 7 o'clock, which is normal. It's not, it's always 7-ish. We're very clear on that. But then 7 turned to 7:04. And I was like, all right, this is kind of unusual. 7:04 turned to 7:07. And the text went out, the phone call went out, and the phone call went right to voicemail. And I was like, okay, Jim has his silence on. He's out. This ain't happening today. So, and then, I saw your messages later about it. So funny. Yeah, apologize that we didn't go live yesterday. But again, it actually kind of works out because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about yesterday. And today there's a little bit more. So the Pirates blessed us.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
I mean, yesterday we would have, we got more stuff to talk about today, so it all works out. Yeah.
But the title remains. We're going to kind of talk and decide. I mean, there's a huge trade. I like witnessed it live, and I don't even pay attention to NBA, but like I got my notifications on. Jeff Passan retweeted it. I saw a Jeff Passan notification. I was like, uh-oh. And I looked and I was like, this is a retweet from, I think it was Shams. But there was a huge trade. Luka went to LA for Anthony Davis. It was like, oh boy, again, I don't pay attention to the NBA, but this is huge, even in my eyes. And I'm like, what's Dallas doing? But yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun. We could talk what would that look like in Pirates world? We also have the PECOTA. Oh boy, Jim. The projections are out for PECOTA for the NL Central standings. Actually, all the standings, right? But NL Central specifically, we're going to talk about. We have a DFA that happened in Pirates world, and an umpire has been fired. So yeah, we'll talk about quite a few things. But before, of course, we do that, let us tell you that the biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Bowl Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make the game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. Yeah, that's where you that got you.
I fumbled that exact same spot on Friday. I think there's a typo in the ad read and threw me off.
Yeah, there is. But anyways, Jim, yeah, that's another thing too. Super Bowl Sunday this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I'm actually in Kansas City, so everybody here is going kind of nuts.
I could imagine
for like the 4th year in a row.
Yeah,
kind of sick of it. Nice. I told everybody yesterday in the office, I was like, I'm sick of you guys. It's like I don't want to watch the Chiefs again, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers a lot of other people. It just must be nice to have a team not only go to the playoffs, but it'll go to like the championship game once, twice, 3, 4 times in a year, 4 times in a row, whatever. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I would like a team to make the playoffs for the 4th time in 33 years. It's a home.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah. So where should we start with this?
Let's start with. Well, I mean, we'll just go chronological order. So, I mean, I'm not a huge basketball guy, but I'm enough of an NBA guy to know when Luka gets traded to the Lakers, and Anthony Davis being involved too. Like it's a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. So we were like, what would this be like? I mean, because Luka's only 25 years old. What would this be like in baseball terms? But we can use Paul Skeens here as like our Luka.
Yeah.
Not exactly similar situations with contract and stuff like that, but as far as like caliber player, compared to the rest of the league, probably similar. So
yeah,
sure. Yeah, so it was like, explain this to Pirates fans as if this basketball trade were a baseball trade. So go.
Yeah. Well, again, like, it was funny because regardless, I felt like, I mean, the perfect, if you don't want to count Pirates, I thought like the perfect one to be Juan Soto. Like Luka is Juan Soto, more or less. But yeah, like to put it in Pirates terms, and again, like the Pirates are fortunate to even have someone who you can make the argument that this is very much the case.
Yeah,
it is Paul Skeens. Like Luka is Paul Skeens, and I'm just thinking here, it's like, okay, well, I mean, Anthony Davis, to quote a Stephen A. Smith quote, like he's no scrub. Like Anthony Davis isn't a scrub by any means, right? He's still pretty decent, but he once was a pretty promising. He was the Luka at one point in time, but now it's kind of breaking down. He's not playing so much. And they talk about, it's like, well, the reason the trade was made is because of his defense. Okay, so I'm thinking like, okay, if the Pirates were to trade Paul Skeens for a guy who was really good, known for his defense, right? But not the same offensively anymore, but still still a pretty decent player. The comp I had, and here's a little bit different. I'm gonna put the comp out I had here. I think yours is still probably better, but regardless, I'm like, is this like Paul Skeens for Marcus Semien? Because it's like the Pirates are like, you know what? We're good on pitching. We need some middle infielders and some really good defense. So yeah, Marcus Semien, come on over, buddy. You're once one of a really, really good player. Still pretty decent, but you're like 34 years old now. Defense is still really good. Barely a league average hitter. Paul Skeens, Marcus Semien, call it a deal.
Okay. Semien never won an MVP, did he? Or did he? Did Semien win one MVP award? Or he came in like second or third one year. He came probably really high up there. I think it was like his last year in Oakland.
Third and 19.
Okay.
Oh, third and 19, third and 21 as well, and third and 23.
Okay. So that's a pretty good comparison. I think my argument with using Semien is just that like he hasn't been good like his entire career, right? Like it took Semien a little bit of time to warm up.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I'm gonna use a little bit different comp. And I'm not gonna necessarily say that Anthony Davis was ever Luka, because I still would put Luka ahead of Davis, like in their primes. They're completely different players, right? So I mean, it's hard to compare the two. But like, if I'm just measuring pure value, I don't know. Davis was good. Davis is like really good though. I'm going Skeens, but also the defensive route. I'm going Skeens, but I'm trading him for Nolan Arenado in this case. So like I'm going Arenado, he's been multiple MVP conversations, but I don't think he's ever actually won one. So sort of like Davis. So Davis has been in a few, top 10s, but he's never quite been like the guy. So I'm going similar baseball trade here would be Skeens for Arenado. Arenado maybe a little older, but that's my comp.
Yeah. And someone here says Skeens to the Yankees for Stanton is the best you can think of. And honestly, like that's, I think both of us nailed we both said Stanton at one point for something. And yeah,
Stanton makes
because
sense
of
too.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I just think the difference is trying to compass in MLB terms, again, like the defensive part of it. I mean, like the reason, like you're bringing in Stan because of defense and such. But yeah, Stan's a good comp as well. Certainly the value at one point, and then the breaking down now, but still, I mean, a decent player, right? No scrub anymore.
Nolan says Skeens for Yelich. That's kind of in the same boat here.
Yeah.
Like
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Now I'll say Yelich won an MVP. Davis never won an MVP.
But I think what we're finding out here is the way we kind of view this, and I think the rest of many fans and people. What?
Yeah.
Okay. So once again, and you said this, and I kind of laughed. I think about this, but you're like, can you imagine the Mavericks fans or Mavericks podcast do an emergency podcast right now about this? And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. But like, could you imagine now how this trade had gone down? Skeens for Arenado or Skeens for Simeon or Skeens for whomever it might be. And again, contract out the window because that's what makes this different in MLB terms. But like, yeah, could you imagine this trade happening and we had to go live that night?
Right. It would be nuts. It would be crazy. I think we had hundreds and hundreds of people watch a Spencer Horwitz trade live stream emergency podcast. So if Paul Skeens got traded for Nolan Arenado, I think people would be they'd be searching for that. So
yeah. But then like the other side of this makes me kind of think too. It's like, this is very lopsided. Pirates fans aren't really all that foreign to this concept. Now, they've never really had someone of the Luka stature to be traded. And I don't think like initially, but I mean, like you can go back to like the Chris Archer trade, and that was a pretty lopsided trade. Didn't work out to be that lopsided at the end of the deal as we expected and thought kind of earlier on. Aramis Ramirez, like that deal happened. So yeah, again, like there's never been anyone of Luka's stature, but the Pirates, the fans have had their moments of what did we do?
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have a Luka type. I mean, if they trade Skeens sometime in the next 4 to 5 years here, it'll be major news.
Hopefully it's not for a how old is Anthony Davis now? 32?
Davis is 31.
31?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not for a broken down. He broke it down still kind of harsh, but regardless.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's still pretty good.
Hopefully it's not for a 31-year-old who's,
despite his college choice, he's been pretty good.
He has. He's been pretty good.
He's
a pretty good ball player.
He made me so mad in college.
Yeah, but anyways, that happened. Interesting. And I thought I did kind of find it funny because even I knew this. But so many people on Twitter were like, what's Mark Cuban doing? I'm like, buddy, he's not there anymore. He's not doing that anymore. What he's doing is probably the same thing we're doing right now. What the hell?
Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe found out because of this trade that Mark Cuban's not in charge of the Mavs anymore. So
right.
I feel like this helped spread that news, which means you also then got all the Pittsburghers who didn't know or have no idea what Mark Cuban's up to. They were all shouting and mentioning Mark Cuban on Twitter to buy the Pirates, So, which he has clearly stated multiple times he has no interest in.
Right. At one time, but not so much more. Anywho, all right, cool. So that happened. We done with that now?
Yeah, we're done with that.
All right. It was fun.
Yeah.
Now to the not so fun things. So yeah, we talk about the projections. We've talked about zips. We've had steamers, right? We've talked to them some degree and such. PECOTA has their projections out for more or less like, like where the standings going to be. Now, Zips doesn't have that too much right now. But yes, PECOTA's out. And again, like, yes, take projections with a grain of salt, always. I mean, that's what we do, right? But the thing that I like to, the reason we talk about it, I guess, right, is it like, it kind of shows like where you stand, it gives you a pretty broad picture, an idea, and again, like when it's just one thing, that's one, but you have 3 projections out, you look at 3 projection systems out there. When you look at odd betting, like when you look at all the numbers compiled at the end of the offseason, kind of get a bigger picture. And right now we have PECOTA. PECOTA comes out and gives out their NL Central rankings. And, PECOTA really likes the Cubs this year. I'll say that. Just overall.
Really like the Cubs, and then they don't really like any other NL Central team.
No. they really don't. But yeah, they do really like the Cubs, and they hear the Cubs winning 90.6 games. That's where the Cubs rank, 90.6. And then actually, you know what? I could probably just bring this up on the screen here.
Yeah, I'll say pop it up.
So I'm going to do that.
But to continue your thoughts.
So the Cubs, 90.6 wins. And then after that, we've talked about how it's been like basically the Cubs and the Brewers and everyone jumbled up. Yeah, they pretty much have the Cubs taking the division, and then everyone else kind of jumbled out some level. Milwaukee at 80.2 wins, St. Louis 78.6. Then there's Pittsburgh at 75.1 and Cincinnati at 73.5. So yeah, just kind of like you said, love for the Cubs, not so much for everyone else. No one else is even a 500 team. Milwaukee's about a 500 team, but looking at it. And then there you go. Disappointment, sadness.
Disappointment and sadness. Yeah, PECOTA's from Baseball Prospectus. So this came out. I think that what surprises me is how low it's got, everybody else. Like I would expect that if you have a computer system and you're running projections, odds are it's going to like the Cubs. Like the Cubs on paper look pretty good. Especially with the addition of Kyle Tucker. Milwaukee, I'm surprised that Milwaukee's so low here. I mean, they're basically projecting 80 and 82, which would be a significant drop for them since last season. But yeah, I mean, you got to be disappointed here in 76 wins again, basically for the Pirates. So you're kind of getting 75 wins is what this is saying. We take these with a grain of salt. They're projections. They don't mean everything in the world. But really just kind of what this is showing is that like this division is down. Right? I think it's pretty clear to say that. And the Pirates haven't positioned themselves to be in all that great of a spot as of right now. Right. So it's like stuff can happen. Things can happen that cause this number to be way lower than it's going to be. Things can happen that cause this number to be higher than it's going to be. So like there's a margin of error here. But yeah, you look at this and you can't necessarily feel great. I mean, this is how many projections in a row where we've seen the hitters aren't supposed to hit this year. And that's it's a big deal. It's a big deal here. And like the pitching staff is supposed to be great. Well, this projection system has the Pirates giving up the second most runs in the division and scoring the least amount of runs. So, the pitching is going to have to be better than what this projection system says if they want to win more games.
Right. Yeah. This just kind of jumbles in and shows you another picture from another projection system. And, before anyone goes off and like, well, PECOTA was wrong last year on these many teams and stuff. Again, that's what we're going with projections. Like, yes, they're not perfect, right? Obviously they're not perfect, but it does get like paint a broad picture on things. And I guess is where I'm at, right? Is we've kind of identified like how Zips views the Pirates, about a 500 team. Here's PECOTA. We've Steamers isn't like perfect in the sense of like this here, how it's showing, but we added up the total WAR. Remember that day when we were going over like the Cubs projections and stuff by Zips, and all we had at time was Steamers. We add up the Steamers WAR and seen where the Pirates are at, and it wasn't too pretty there either. And it's just like, like going back to that Jay-Z line in a nicer way. It's kind of like, when you think everyone's insane, maybe you're the one insane. And it's kind of like if you want to say how the Pirates are, they're fine. Okay. And if you want to show me your work on how you got there, okay. I can respect that. But the thing is, it's like nothing in the industry is pointing at the Pirates and saying they've done a good job setting themselves up for this season. And again, that's why I'm so frustrated. And that's why I'm sure you're frustrated as well. And many fans are frustrated because when you've spent a total of $10.7 million this offseason, in doing so, kind of shows you're not doing what you need to do. Like you have you still, even for the Pirates, they have resources to do more than they've done right now. And that's again what is frustrating. So when everything's looking at you and saying, well, yeah, you're probably a third place team at best. Maybe that's about what they are, because that's what everyone's pointing at them. And again, like they can, right? We understand people can reach their top 10% of the projections and do really good, and people can overachieve and stuff, right? Like the Pirates could become a playoff team. There is a possibility, right? Even PECOTA here has them. There is a 5.8% chance the Pirates can make the playoffs, right? A lot of things happen. They could make it, and good on them. But you could also set yourself up in a better situation. You could also make your team maybe be the second best heading in here, because you've done some things. You've raised the bar. You've raised the floor of this team, and I haven't seen that. And that's what's troubling. That's why we're so frustrated. And now when we are just a week and 2 days away from pitchers and catches reporting, here we are.
Here we are, still sitting at a payroll hovering around 80 million too. And I think the frustrating part is that like you think there should be room here to improve. Like there should be. They finished last year with a payroll higher than this. Attendance went up last year. We talked to everyone out there who's got sources and they've come on our show, and we've asked them what's opening day payroll going to be. And most everyone kind of agrees it's going to be right around $100 million. So it's like, is everybody just 20% off? Or is there money out there that they're still able to spend on payroll, whether that be from an improvement via a trade or through free agency? Like they just haven't done enough. And Nolan brings up in the comments too, don't worry, the internal projections are better. Like that's the thing. Like the internal projections are probably in line with all of these. Like unless the Pirates internal projection system is just all out of whack, like every other projection system kind of has them in this similar range. And if you're the Pirates and you're running these internal projections, how can you not just be like, we need to do something? We need to do something to put this team in a better position to succeed. Because right now it's possible, but it's not likely.
Right. And I understand there's a lot of variance on that team, which is one of the reasons why you hear me keep talking about, much like last season, some risk mitigation, right? Like bringing in some stable veterans to help this team when some guys aren't hitting. Like at least there's someone there that can give you something. So maybe they're looking at it with the rosy glasses too. Remember, like, well, you know what? Yeah, these projections say it, but I believe, right? I believe that Henry's going to do XYZ because we got XYZ to solve that. And I believe that he's going to come back from his injury. And I believe this in other sense too. I try to think about like, how else could you look at this? And well, I'm sure I'm not going to go back, but I'm sure like most projections weren't too kind on the 2013 Pirates to where they ended up.
Yeah, the 2013 Pirates were expected to be basically a 500 team.
So there you go, which again also is much better than this. But but they outperformed that. And why did they? Well, but they did something different. They did something that no one like really saw. And they went after like, the framing and the shift and stuff like that that doesn't really translate, so well, I
They
guess.
stole wins. I mean, those
They
teams stole wins. Yeah.
Right, but like they identified something that maybe the projections aren't going to come up here, and they believed in it, right? And they proved us wrong. Like you could go back and say that. And I guess where I'm coming from here is, and I could be very wrong, but to me, it's not like I see that they've identified something that they're honing in on that's going to do much like 2013 did, if that makes sense, So, and again, I could be wrong. They could come out in this year and say, you know what, Spencer was the right guy because this is what we identified. We already had the guys in place that we identified correctly. They just hit, like I don't know if I see that right now. And again, that's where sort of frustration comes in.
Yeah. And Shortle brings up here in the comments, like, do we think they tried to get better players, but between a combination of bad reputation and poor treatment of players, like kind of like Rowdy last year, like did that affect stuff? And I don't know how much the Rowdy stuff affects free agency, but I think more than anything, like reputation does, just from a team standpoint. Like if you're a good free agent and there are multiple teams out there who are bidding for your services, the team that hasn't won anything your entire career, which right now, if you're hitting free agency, you've never seen Pirates play good baseball. Like they were good back when these guys were in high school or something. So it's like, yeah, if your agent gets 6 calls and it's from 6 teams, and the Pirates are probably pretty far down on that list, unless they're the top bidder, you're not really giving them a whole lot of attention. And in order for them to be the top bidder, they've got to outbid the 5 other teams that are interested. And we haven't seen the Pirates be able to outbid for a player's services when other teams seem to be interested. Like it seems to be something that Cherington is not able to execute. Like if you've got someone with an interest from other teams, they are typically choosing the other team. And then Nolan says here too, it's hard to even come to the conclusion that we've been trying because we've never even really been mentioned with anybody.
Right.
The only people we've been mentioned with are the ones who are still available and most likely available on cheap 1-year deals. Like those are the names that are being tossed around. So it's just lack of execution, lack of reputation. It's put the Pirates in this position where if they maybe they went after some guys. We don't know, but they didn't sign them, and ultimately that's what matters.
Right. And I kind of want to bring up something about that with free agency too. I mean, there's a plethora of reasons that people may want to or not want to sign somewhere. It's not always just about money, but money is certainly a big factor, right? I mean, I like to get paid for my work, and if someone's going to pay me more, I'm gonna entertain going over there. So there's that. There's where you live. There's taxes. There's the actual team. So and I guess the people that always want to say, like, well, I shouldn't say always, but like when we bring this up, and it's like, the Pirates certainly don't bring themselves to be an attractive place. And why is it? It's because of the culture, because of winning, and that's not everything. Well, I get it's not everything, but for a lot of people, it is. And you know what? Let's bring up some also recent news from another league, like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett wants to leave Cleveland because he wants to win a Super Bowl, right? And I thought it was funny as we're going to talk about this today. That happens. It's like it's a great example. Like if Myles Garrett was a free agent, is he entertaining the Pirates right now? No, because he doesn't care about Cleveland again. He cares about winning a Super Bowl. And again, like that's the picture you want to paint. Not every free agent is the same. It's not always about money. Someone might take less money because they look at the Pirates and say, well, this says 75 here. Historically, you've won 3 years. I'm sorry, 4 seasons, right? We've had 4 winning seasons in 32 years, playoffs 3 times. Are you guys going to do it? I don't know if I trust you. There's this team over here, they're going to pay me less, but they've been in the playoffs 7 of the last 15 years. They've gone to the, whatever it is. Like this plays a part. These guys are athletes. They're competitors. Sometimes they don't just want to get paid. And we did hear it last year, and I do believe it to a pretty solid degree that like the Pirates were rumored to be in and paid more to Imanaga. And he went to the Cubs. I mean, it's funny, but like that was reported about that the Pirates actually offered more to him. Why was that? Well, probably because of this right now. The Cubs are projected 90.6 wins, the Pirates 75.1. Like that happens. So you have to overcome that though. Like that can't be an excuse for you all the time. That's what we were talking about for years ago. The Pirates need to start adding some actual quality free agents. Make this team somewhat good. Don't just sit there in last place all the time. This kind of what you reap was, what you sow.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this is a team due to the financial constraints of baseball. They are going to have to actually develop their core. The Pirates are only going to be successful if the best players on their team have been developed by them. And then you are surrounding those people with, quality free agents to fill in holes and fill out roles that still need to happen. And yeah, we can sit here and talk about free agency all day, but it also kind of comes back to the point where you're looking at these projections, and let's say the Pirates did go out there and trade for Taylor Ward or something like that, right? That increases their playoff odds to what, maybe 8%, from 5.8. So it's like they still just, it's just too many things that haven't gone correctly over these last 6 years that are contributing to this. And when you aren't able to develop talent like the Pirates haven't been able to, it just puts you in even more of a bind, because then you do have to go out there and attract free agents. And that becomes more expensive. That means you're dealing with players who have a choice in the matter, as opposed to, drafting someone. So it just puts you at a disadvantage. And so I think all of this ultimately can go back to the Pirates haven't been able to develop quality bats in 6 years.
Right.
And because of that, they need to go out there and find quality bats in the free agency market. And that's difficult to do because quality bats cost money. And the Pirates don't have a ton of it that they're willing to spend. So it just puts them in a tough situation. Obviously it's a self-inflicted tough situation. So like, make sure I'm saying that, like, this isn't anybody's fault but theirs. We're all trying to find the guy who did this, right? And it's Bob Nutting in the hot dog costume and Ben Sherrington. Like they did this. They put themselves in this situation. And right now, we're at the point now where you just got to pray. You just got to close your eyes. You got to pray this season that these guys on this team outperform what they're supposed to do, because it's the only chance they got.
Yeah. Yep. So again, that's frustrating, and part of it here. This isn't like call anyone out, but like, good example. Joey says Davis is supposed to be part of that core. He hasn't been good. Like Nolan's saying, he's 25, not 28, 29, 30. Yeah, Keller didn't put it together as 26. And right, development isn't linear, right? You can't bank on everyone coming up and hitting it and taking off. Some people develop later. But put that in perspective. Who's to say it's going to happen this year? Like, again, that's kind of the problem, like Nick Yorks could come up and they might struggle as well. That's what's just so frustrating. It's just like, if you just had some free agents that you could bring in to help stabilize this, that floor comes up. And that way, if Nick York comes in and he plays really, really good, well, that just puts your ceiling up higher. that's great. But if he doesn't, you have that some of a safety net. And there's just not like enough safety nets. You know, like it felt like IKF was brought in to be that safety net, and now he's the starting shortstop.
Right.
So much for that.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that trade, I liked the trade because I was like, oh, this is a Jared Triolo upgrade.
Yeah.
And that's not what he came to be. He came here and then a few weeks later, he's your starting shortstop. It's like, hold on. That's not what I thought we did here.
Right. But at any rate, I know, again, it just comes down to frustration because I don't think the Pirates have done everything they can do and should have done to set themselves up for success. It's not a terrible team. I still have faith and believe that they can outperform most of these projections that are showing out there. You know, like I don't think they're really that close to a mid-70s win team. I think they're much closer to like the 80s wins team. But I don't think they're like an 85 win team. Can they? Sure. Like it can happen. Like I'm not going to be at, and you know, don't quote me at the end of the year. Like if they win 85, like look what happened. Like I think they can, but I don't think it's as probable. You know, I think they're probably sitting closer to like an 80, 82 win team. That's kind of where they're at right now. And that's not enough. Like you should be going into the season thinking like you're an 85 win team. You feel strong. That way, when you're at the trade deadline, you're not wondering, are we buyers or sellers? Yeah. So, anyhow, the PECOTA projections are out.
PECOTA projections are out. They were not kind to the Pirates, not kind to the NL Central as a whole. I mean, they had the Reds at 74 wins, Reds at 74, Pirates at 75, Cardinals at 78, Brewers at 80. So, yeah, PECOTA does not love the NL Central by any means.
But one thing I want to put out there. What's that?
They do love the Dodgers, though, as they probably should.
100% odds of making the playoffs. No, actually, one more thing I want to put out there though is, and again, something that like Zips kind of highlighted, and we took a step back and said that makes sense. Cardinals, third place. Like Cardinals are still very much in this division with the rest of them. We keep assuming like Cardinals are the pushover. Cardinals are the last place team, and neither projection system has the Cardinals as a last place team. They're very much right in the middle of the pack. So, got to worry about them again.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm kind of pushing the Cardinals, the Pirates, and the Reds. I think they're all extremely similar teams in terms of overall talent at this point.
Yeah. Reds and Pirates certainly have more of the upside. Absolutely, I feel. But Cardinals, you look at them, and it's not really that bad of a team. We want them to be, but it's not really all that bad. Much like the Pirates, like and the Reds. Like neither are bad. There's not a bad team. There's just not many good teams. They just kind of exist.
Yeah. Even the Cubs, like on paper, they're good, but they've just kind of been floundering themselves the past few years. So they haven't been hitting their projections.
So anywho, we're going to move on.
Yes.
So actual news that happened. You know, we've talked about the signings. The became official. The Mesa signing became official last night. The corresponding move, Alika Williams has been DFA'd. Cool. This is just one of those things where it's like, I mean, that's the right move. It's the right move. Like there's not a complaint on it by any means, right? It's just it reminds you, it's like, you know, I didn't like that trade to begin with. Wasn't a big fan of it. Like Robert Stevenson for Alika Williams. I had a different perspective as well why I didn't like it. I mean, at the time that bullpen didn't have a lot of depth. Why are you trading that away? Also, like Stevenson's kind of intriguing. Maybe the deadline, it might be like you could get better for it. And yeah, Stevenson showed like, yeah, he's injured. I get it. But he signed a 3-year deal because he went to Tampa, and Tampa's like, yeah, like we can unlock this. And they did. He became a really good reliever at the end of the year, which made him sign a 3-year deal with LA. And then, yeah, he was out for the year because he got injured. But regardless, like, that was a talent Steven represented. Like, it was there. It was in him. Like, you guys got to bring this out. One of the more rarer misses, I'll say, because, again, they've kind of shown time and time again they're good on identifying things and making pitchers really good. But one of the rare misses for the Pirates, and they bring in Alika Williams, which at the time I was like, this is a former first rounder who just kind of isn't good. He's older. Like, why not take a flyer on a Stevenson deal than this? And here we are, a few years later. He gets DFA'd. He showed pretty much nothing.
Yeah. I was actually kind of shocked that it was Alika Williams. I maybe I shouldn't have been. I mean, this 40-man roster has a lot of infielders in particular. A lot of them that all, aren't like the most exciting people. But yeah, I mean, you take your pick. There's Emmanuel Valdez. There's, Sung-Si Shang, but you're not probably DFAing him quite yet. Like, you're not giving up on him yet. You're not giving up on Peguero just quite yet. I mean, you probably have one more year of Triolo before you do give up on him. But yeah, I mean, I think we've seen enough of Alika Williams. He's gotten 208 major league plate appearances, weighted runs created plus a 44. He's been good defensively, but all of that has added up to negative 0.7 WAR in 83 major league games. He just can't hit. Like, he just can't hit enough to, like, there is room in baseball for glove first shortstops, but you at least got to be able to hit a little bit, like a little bit. And Alika Williams hasn't been able to do that. Like I said, I mean, 44 weighted runs created plus, that's just, you can't have a guy like that on your roster. Unless he's your backup catcher. That's like the only position where that number is maybe acceptable, is if you're a backup catcher and you handle a pitching staff really well.
Yeah, or I'd say, I mean, I think there's a place for an Alika Williams on a team, but it's just not the Pirates. I mean, if you have, again, like, it comes down to the roster construction, Jim, and if you're a team that has a really good offense, you know what? Alika as your late inning replacement as a glove, fine. Like, if he's your 26 guy, fine, because you're fine on offense. But a team like the Pirates, who are struggling and starting for offense, you can't do that because you already you have 25 other Alika Williams on the team, right? You don't need him as a 26 guy anymore. So I guess that's where I'm like, I mean, you can make an argument if a team picked him up, okay, like, that's fine, because it's not a big deal either. It's Alika Williams. Jeez, excuse me. But right, like, I going back when you first started, when you saw kind of surprised, and like, I'm kind of surprised as well. And the reason you're surprised is he's like the only guy on this organization that can play short defensively, like, that you feel comfortable with, right? It's one of the reasons with the IKF. It's like, you're putting him here, but not his best situation. He's not like a really good shortstop. Gonzalez ain't a good shortstop. Peguero's not a good shortstop. Like, there's no one on his roster now that you look and say, shortstop. So
yeah, I mean, you kind of look at I mean, the best if you're just going by defense, it's probably Sung-Si Shang is probably your best defensive shortstop on the 40-man, but he hasn't played above AA. And then it's probably Peguero or Gonzalez or IKF. Like, I think you can kind of put all three of those guys in a similar boat defensively when it comes to their shortstop ability.
Right. So again, like, that's where I was kind of, air quotes, shocked on it, but also it's Alika Williams. Like, you shouldn't care this much in that sense. He's an upgradable position, like, player for sure, right? It's just like, now, like, the reason he was on the team, you can make the argument, was because his glove. So if for any reason, whatever, like, at least you're comfortable, like, if IKF doesn't work out or whatever, like, he has a glove, at least he can play, he's capable. But with him gone now,
I don't know if comfortable is the right word to use.
I'm talking just defensively. Just defensively.
Okay.
All right, shortstop, again, defensively. Okay. Like, you feel good. I don't feel good about IKF. I don't really feel great about the Gonzalez or Peguero. So again, like, that's the role he had for this team, is he's a glove. He's somewhat of a safety net defensively. That's it. Which again is why you upgrade it and you say that it's fine. Like again, like him being DFA'd wasn't a bad move, wasn't a wrong move. It just kind of highlights once again how through this regime, and this is what I find funny, because every time the international draft or the actual draft happens and you see fans and it's like, can they, all they do is draft shortstops? All this team does is draft shortstops. We need first base. We need this. And it's like for a team that has identified and through trade, through drafting or whatever, added so many middle infielders, they don't have a shortstop.
Yeah, the shortstop's definitely lacking. I mean, you hope Griffin can be that guy, but he's so far away. Like it's so far away. Yeah, it's a position they don't have anybody there right now that you feel good about. And again, like I want to make sure this. I'm not. I would have DFA Alika Williams here. Like he has no. I don't. There's no spot for him on this team. There's no reason why you need to have him on this team. I think he can be a infield depth situation in AAA for a lot of teams. I bet he gets claimed just because, like you mentioned, he has value with the glove. He's got options remaining. So I would imagine he gets claimed by a team. I don't think he'll clear waivers. Yeah, I mean, a guy like this is probably someone who's going to be bouncing around from team to team for a while he's got options, while he's cheap. And, he might accrue a year or two of service time along the way. But that's probably Alika Williams' career at this point.
I agree. I do agree. So again, like, and a thing I want to highlight here also, which I saw a lot of recently, and I think this kind of suggests again, and we've talked about it. Ben hasn't been afraid to pull a trigger. Like Alika, again, like that was a trade he made. He could have saved him too, because like that kind of shows fault. Like that trade didn't work out. Ben's been pretty quick. If you're not the guy, he'll move on from you. Like I'll hand that to him. He hasn't like really hung on to his guys for like too long. I feel like.
I think it depends on the situation.
Maybe.
Like, did he hang on to Rowdy Tellez too long?
You can argue it.
Did he hang on to Edward Olivares too long? I mean, no, you're right. I mean, Rowdy, because they held on to Rowdy as long as they did, like he ended up putting together a nice summer. So, I mean, you could say that, but like they also trotted him out there when he was abysmal for months. I don't know. I don't know that I wouldn't say he's quick or not. I think he seems kind of average in that regard.
Well, even at average though, I think it's better than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah.
So okay, fine. But yeah,
Alika, I mean, Marcano would still be on this team if he hadn't been banned from baseball, I think. I don't know. Marcano might be gone by now.
Yeah. Well, Marcano, yeah. He was gone.
He was. You're right. They did.
Yeah, he was with the Padres again, wasn't he?
That was he with the injury. They basically gave up on him with the injury.
Yeah. Okay.
You're
so
right.
There you go.
Yeah. So I
changed. Marcano wasn't our problem. That wasn't ours, even though it was.
Carrington is quick to move on.
There it is. Yeah. So there's that. And I guess the last bit of news, which is kind of interesting, Pat Hoberg is fired.
Speaking of Tucupita Marcano.
Yeah, speaking of Marcano. This is one of those things where it's like, he was a good ump.
He was the best,
especially like now, like coming out there, like showing like his previous scorecards, like he's really good. But he's now fired. He's gone because he shared a betting account with a friend, more or less, and he claims innocence. Like, he wasn't involved in anything. And then I guess again, if you want to make an argument, because he was so good, he clearly wasn't throwing games out. Nothing really controversial there, you would imagine.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
kind of sucks.
the investigation showed that like it doesn't seem like he bet on any baseball. It doesn't seem like he affected any games. But like
Right.
at this point, like, guys, like the rules are pretty clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? You're a major league umpire. Why are you sharing a gambling account with someone? You're allowed to have your own gambling account. You just can't bet on baseball. Like that's allowed. You can, if you're an umpire, you can have a DraftKings account and you can bet on all the football you want, but you can't bet on baseball. So when you share an account with somebody and that person is betting on baseball, well, then you kind of are too, because it's a shared
Right.
account. Like, first off, why are we sharing gambling accounts? I don't know why that's a thing. No one's asked me if I want to, share in their gambling account. Maybe if you pool your money together, you can make bigger bets, but couldn't you just do that?
But
Like,
then again, then you're
I
part of
mean,
it.
right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what I don't understand why you're making this mistake. Like, this is a boneheaded thing to do, especially with sports betting being legal now. Like, all this stuff is, you upload your driver's license and your social security. Like, these places know who you are, and they're required every year to like disclose this information if they've got somebody gambling who shouldn't be. So it's, I don't know. It's just, it seems just incredibly boneheaded to me. Throw away your entire career, a career that you were great at. Like, I mean,
Really
by
great.
all accounts, he was the best home plate umpire in baseball. And because of this stupid, silly thing where he can't follow the rules, and the rules are extremely clear, he's fired. He's done. And I mean, you can't feel bad for the guy because like it's a pretty clear rule. It's like the one thing you can't do.
Yeah. Don't get it. Just like you don't get it. Why do you have to? And it's the thing too, like if you have a friend asking you, that's probably a red flag, especially like in the sports gaming world. Like if my friend was like, "Hey man, I can't get my own account. Can we share one?" Buddy, no. Because if you can't get your own account, I don't want you part of mine. So I don't get it either. I don't get it. And you know what? Again, you can believe, right? You can believe he wasn't trying to do anything disingenuous and throw games and whatever. But you just got to be better than that. You got to be better. You got to be better. And yeah, it just sucks because like MLB loses a really, really good umpire in the day and age where we can use some really good umpires. So
Yeah, I mean, he was
he
basically
gone.
suspended all of last season. I want to say.
Yeah. Yep. He didn't umpire once last year. So people make smarter decisions. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, whether you're just a person working at a 9 to 5 or you're a general manager for a sports team, make better decisions and do better.
And what if you're doing great already? Like, you don't always have to do better. If you're already doing great, just keep doing great.
You know what? Yes, but strive to do better because we all can do better, even if you're doing great. There's always something you can do better, Jim.
I guess that's true.
There you go. All right. There's our words for the day.
Words of wisdom from
do better. Even if you're doing great, you can do better.
Yeah.
And I do firmly believe that. Jim.
Steel City.
You can always do better.
Hashtag be best.
Be best. Be best. There it is. Okay, let's get out of here then. Are we done?
We're done.
All right. So we're done. Since it's Tuesday, we'll be back on tomorrow night. NS9 Live. Actually, WNS9 Plus. We'll have Noah Howes on with us.
Hey.
So tune into that. And I guess we'll see you then. Jim won't be on, though, right? You won't be on tomorrow, correct?
I will not be on tomorrow.
Definitely join us tomorrow. It'll be a really good show. We decided we were going to be best by not having Jim on.
Addition by subtraction.
There it is. There it is. Bye, Alika. So We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.